Cool. All right, then Kevin, could you get us started?
All right, good morning, everyone, or I would say good evening to Matt, or for some people who are right now in New York for NYC. I think we're in a lot of different time zone right now, but thanks for tuning in. Before I started, please allow me to do a self-introduction first. I'm Jessica. I'm the partner of AppWorks. I've been with the firm since 2014 and heading our biggest treasury, which is our accelerator, for a couple of years, and started to invest and gradually became one of the partners in the firm. So I led majority of our Web3 deals. That includes like Flow, Dapper Labs, Figment, and of course, Splinterlands. My guest today is Matt Rosen, founder and CPO of Splinterlands. For those who doesn't know about Splinterlands, it's a digital collectible card game where players build up a collection of cards with various abilities and use them to battle other players. Each card is represented by an NFT and are tradable, can be exchanged on the open market. And for those who are familiar with Splinterlands, you probably don't know that Splinterlands already has 1.8 million users or players and stays on the top of 5 of the ranking in terms of the user base and most usable D app, and have, I think, 250K weekly active users since 2018. So the game was even before Axie Infinity and Stephen. So Matt is definitely an OG here when it comes to Web3 games. And hopefully we can get some of the secret sauce out of him and about how a game being sustained for that long. So Matt, thanks for joining us. Do you want to say hi to the audience and perhaps a short self-intro?
Yeah, I mean, thanks. It's great to have this opportunity. Your intro was great. I'm Matt Rosen, and I'm the founder of Splinterlands. So I've just been a gamer my whole life, particularly trading card games. I started out with Magic the Gathering, when I was a kid. And even though I don't really play Magic anymore, I still collect the cards, and I still own a lot of the cards that I had, when I started playing, and a lot of them are quite valuable now. And that was clearly, something, that whole collectability was something that you lost when I went to digital games like Hearthstone or whatever. So, it was in around 2017 when I first learned about NFTs. I immediately thought it would be so cool if there was a trading card game that used this, so you could have a digital game, but also have collectibles that you own and can trade and all that. So, me and my partner Agrode set out to build Splinterlands, and we launched in May of 2018.
Mm. That's great. Thanks for the intro. So I guess since you're talking about the Splinterlands game itself, I think first thing first, play to earn. I think that's a huge difference versus a Web2 game. I think back in 2018, when you guys first launched the game, there wasn't a term for sort of play to earn. And I think Axie Infinity probably gets popular, and the term play to earn comes out, and there's a Stephen, and all this project comes ups and downs in a good way. I think it brought a lot of attention to Web3 games, but at the same time, it also makes people doubt on the true value of the game, at least for the entertainment one. So what's your view on Web3 game? Does that need to be a play-to-earn mechanism?
It doesn't necessarily need to be play-to-earn, but at least, the ownership of assets is key. I think Web3 in general, it's the only difference between Web3 and Web2 is that in Web2, it's really just customers providing value, and all of that value going to the company that created whatever product it is and that company's shareholder. So it's really a one-way street for value to go. And Web3 is just that through tokenization, the users of a platform or the players of a game are able to sort of have an ownership stake in the platform. So if the people who provide the value also earn some of the value, and it's not just all going to the companies, but the players or the users are sharing in the value that they're helping to create.
I think that's an interesting point because when no matter it's a fungible token or NFT itself, I think because it's tradable, so I think that brings a different mechanism into the equation here. So some of the players that own the NFT or own the token itself is not necessarily the player is what people want on the platform itself. They are actually sort of looking for some of gain of a capital, or they just want to flip. So what do you think this token thing fundamentally change the economic system within the game versus the Web 2?
Well, it's actually not all that different than physical games like Magic the Gathering.
Right.
So because that, with physical games, the players own the assets, they own the physical cards, and they can buy and sell and trade them. So, if you play Magic, you can buy new packs from the company, or you could just buy cards from your local card shop. And people can set up card shops that just trade cards, right? And they can make a business based on that. So Web3 really just allows that in the digital world. So, players can either buy new NFTs from the company that issues them, or they can buy them secondhand on markets. And then there can also be businesses like OpenSea where these assets are traded. So it's really very similar to what already exists with physical collectibles, but it just allows it to all happen digitally.
Okay, so digital is an interesting thing. So I remember back in the days that it's actually a lot of bots that using a lot of people using bots, and it will basically create an account for a couple of dollars and start to earn the rewards. And for the digital thing, it's actually easier to do that. And I thought that created a lot of trouble to the games as well. Do you think that's something, it's something that necessarily will happen, or it's something that, the game developers like you guys need to do something to prevent that kind of things?
Well, I think the whole prevention of bots is very Web 2. And Web 3, the whole idea is open, permissionless, decentralized systems. And so in that case, there is no such thing as really prevention of bots, because that requires some centralized entity to determine what accounts are bots, and then to not allow those accounts to participate in the game, which goes against the whole concept of decentralization. It'd be like if there was some group that determined that certain accounts weren't allowed to transact in Bitcoin, right? Because they didn't do it the right way. So it bothers me when I see games when I see Web3 games banning accounts or things like that, because it kind of goes against the principles of Web3. So, in Splinterlands, we may have to ban accounts from being able to use our website or services that we provide, but never are we able to ban accounts from being able to participate by submitting transactions to the blockchain. And we can't ban or block the ownership of assets or anything like that. So what we have to do is we have to build the game knowing that there will be bots and that there will be automated play. We have to design the game economy for that, to make sure that bots don't really have advantages over human players, and that they can't just farm rewards, infinitely or anything like that. So that's a lot of what we've built into the Splinterlands system and into the game economy is where bots and players really kind of have a symbiotic relationship. Bots are actually very helpful to the game because they need to buy cards or rent cards just like regular players. So they're providing value to the ecosystem. And they also make it so that there's more liquidity in matches in the game, right? So in Splinterlands, you could find an opponent 24/7 at any level of play. And, sometimes there'll be real players and sometimes there'll be bots, but honestly, it's very hard to actually tell which in most cases. And it's helpful because, until we have like millions and millions of players every day, the bots add a lot of liquidity there.
So basically, it actually instead of hurting the game, it's actually helping providing a lot of liquidity, and also it makes probably the human beings feel more interesting about there's some elements in there as well.
Yeah. So yeah, overall, I think every Web3 project, whether it's games or anything, needs to embrace the fact that there will be, scripting, bots, automated usage, and they should design their systems around that rather than try to, have a centralized path to block certain accounts.
Interesting. So you mentioned the decentralization. I think that's one of the core value about Web3 itself. And I understand that you guys launched a validated nodes, which was a big thing a couple months ago. And what was the thinking behind? I understand you are a huge fan about decentralization. I think in the past, the game itself wasn't that decentralized as it right now. So I think that's some kind of validator nodes comes up. Can you elaborate some of the context about it and what was the thinking?
Yeah, so our game actually doesn't run on a smart contract blockchain platform like Ethereum or Polygon or Solana. We built our own kind of custom platform as a second layer on top of the Hive blockchain. So we did that because we want to provide a more user-friendly experience. We really want to be the first kind of mainstream crypto game. And the current experience with most blockchain platforms out there just doesn't really work for the vast majority of people. It's too difficult. It's too hard for people to be able to manage their keys and all that stuff. So we've, over the past 4 years, kind of been developing our own custom platform. But that means, for most of the time, we were the only ones running the actual code. So it's sort of be like Bitcoin, but only one company runs a node, right? So that's not very decentralized, obviously. So the validator nodes is our first step to the open source code base that anyone can run, anywhere around the world anonymously, to independently validate all of the transactions in the game so that it's not dependent on us anymore. And so the code is actually not launched yet. What we launched is the ability to purchase licenses to run the code and then earn rewards for doing that. So it's a way of rewarding people, because we don't have like block rewards, I guess, like Bitcoin. So you can purchase a license, and it doesn't purchase it from us. It actually just burns our SPS token. So it's value to the whole ecosystem and not like to our company. And then you'll be able to earn rewards by running this software. So you'll sort of be like a Bitcoin miner, but you'll be a Splinterlands validator. And so that code, the first version, should be released within the next few months. And that'll be the first step to making this a much more decentralized product.
And who do you think will run in the nodes? Like, are they the players, or are they professional node operators?
I think initially it's going to be mostly our players. They've been the ones, they've been very excited to purchase the licenses and run the nodes. But ideally we're going to get a lot of different diverse groups. There'll be some, investors, node operators, all these things. We want it to be as diverse a group as possible and as many as possible running the software all around the world.
Have you thought about using other blockchains, layer 1 protocols to run the Splinterlands itself instead of Hive?
Yeah, we've looked at a lot of them, but still, so Hive is a fork of Steem, STEEM, which was created by Dan Larimer in 2016. And its focus was to be kind of like a blockchain-based Reddit. So the focus was from, 5 years ago, 6 years ago now, to really be much more. It was like Web3 before Web3 was even a thing. And it has a lot of features that I haven't actually still found to this day on lots of other blockchain platforms. So it's not just about like, fast and feeless transactions, but it's really about the security. So on Hive, for example, you create a wallet, but it's not just a public-private key pair. You have multiple public-private key pairs associated with each wallet, and they have different levels of permissions. So when you just log in to play the game in battle, you use one key pair, and that doesn't have any access to your assets. So even if that gets hacked or stolen, the hacker can't actually steal anything from you. And then similarly, you can stake your assets in the game. You can lock them up for a period of time. So then even if all of your keys get hacked, the hacker can only start unstaking your assets. And it takes a period of time. So you can actually recover your account. You can use a master key to change all of your other keys and kick, the hacker out of your account before any of your assets have been unstaked. So nothing even gets stolen. And there's a few other examples of things like this, just ways we can make a much more secure and user-friendly experience. So players can still own their own keys, right? It's still a decentralized system. We're not a custodian. We're not holding keys for players, but they can still be protected from things like getting hacked. And we've been working on this for 4 years now and experimenting, and we haven't found another blockchain platform that really does that better than Hive. And also with Hive, for example, like Solana and these newer platforms, they have a lot of downtime, they have issues, things come up. Hive or Steam, which it's forked from, we've been running our game on that for 4 years now. We've been through everything already. We've been through hard forks and downtime and issues, and now it runs, with almost without issue. So it would really take a lot, I think, for us to move from that, because we've spent so much time kind of perfecting, I'd say, this system, and it works really well.
So basically, it has already considered all the troubles that the mass public while playing a game may face, or losing a key or staking or forgot passwords, all these kind of stuff. But it will still protect your assets.
Yeah, which I think is really revolutionary. I don't really know any other projects that are doing that, and I think that's absolutely necessary. I mean, you can't go to just regular users and say, "Hey, come put a lot of money into these games or these platforms." But if you lose your keys or you get hacked, then you lose everything and nobody can help you. It's like that's what most blockchain projects, that's where they are today. And I think that has to be resolved before we're going to see real mainstream adoption.
All right, I want to touch upon decentralization again. So I think there's a pros and cons. So people talk about decentralized a lot. So first question, I would like to know, why do you like decentralization a lot yourself? And second question is, we've also seen the news about Solana these days. That was interesting. So eventually, you're putting all the sort of controlling power or decision making to either the user, either the investor, either the mass public, or someone you actually didn't know. So that's something you've created for a couple of years with all your energy and with all your time. And do you think that the term community can make a better decision than the whole founding team yourself? And does that create some of the danger in the long run that they might make a bad decision to eventually kill the game?
So decentralization is, to me, the most important thing. That's really the only difference between Web3 and Web2, right? So to me, there's no point in really doing anything Web3 unless you're working towards being as decentralized as possible. And as far as the whole like proof of stake and governance and all of that, so the main thing you have to look at is like what is the governance system, right? So people look at what's happening on Solana with Solend or other things, and they're like, well, that means that proof of stake or this system is bad, but that they're casting a generalization to the whole thing. Whereas really it depends on, was there like a large pre-mine? So even, a lot of these platforms might, they're proof of stake, but maybe the founding team has the majority of the stake because they gave it to themselves, right? So that's not, and you also have to look at how much do the exchanges control? Because a lot of people don't know, Hive is a fork of Steam, and what it was because Justin Sun took over Steam. and he convinced the exchanges like Binance to stake all of their customers' Steam. They locked it up for 13 weeks without their permission to take over the chain. So you have to look at those things and what can happen in all of these scenarios. But ultimately, the real power of Web3 and decentralization and running on these blockchains is the ability to fork the chain, right? So no matter what happens, Steam got taken over completely, 100%, but the community made a fork of the chain, and then it's up to everybody to decide which platform they want to use. And in this case, I think Hive is the only example where a fork of a chain has become more valuable than the original chain that it forked from, because the community chose that one over the other one. So in any case where there's a decision made in any, by any group that's unpopular, anyone can fork the chain and undo that decision, and then everyone can choose whether they want the original or the fork. So it's really that's true decentralization, where anyone can put out any system that works any way or any change that they want, and then everyone can collectively decide which they want to participate in and which has more value.
What do you think is a good portion regarding to like how much a team can own, how much a community can own?
I really think there should never be any type of pre-mine or just like tokens given out at the beginning. So the more a token can be distributed, the better. And then any team tokens should really be a DAO, right? That the token holders should decide how that group of tokens should be used. So if there was going to be a certain team allocation, it should instead be put into a DAO controlled by all the other token holders. And then if the founding team wants to do something, they should be able to submit a proposal, right? And have the community decide if they want to fund that proposal or not. So that is now how the Hive blockchain operates. And that's our goal for Splinterlands also. We're moving everything towards the SPS token DAO. And eventually, even our company building out the product, our goal is that we would submit proposals to the community to approve or not.
How long do you think you guys can really reach the so-called decentralization within Splinterlands?
Well, I mean, decentralization is always a scale. So there's not something is decentralized or it isn't. It's how decentralized, and people have to look at how it works. So I think we have kind of like a 4 to 5 year plan where we slowly move there. So we're starting with the validator nodes, which will just begin with just the SPS token. So that will make the SPS token itself decentralized, because it will, the code will be all public and anyone can run it and validate that system. Then it's going to take more time to add all of our existing assets into that, because it's been running for 4 years. There's a lot of stuff to move over, whereas our SPS token is newer. And then throughout this process, once the SPS token validators are live, that will start the governance voting in the DAO to be able to distribute those tokens. So it's going to be a process over the next, I'd say, 3 to 5 years.
So since you're touching about SPS token, are you guys feeling pressure about the token price itself?
Well, I mean, the token price is down as most tokens in the general market. But one of the good things is that Splinterlands has been through a bear market already, right? We launched in May of 2018, and we saw things go right downhill through the rest of 2018 and 2019. So one, that our team is going to be around and we're going to be here through this bear market and until, beyond the next bull market. And then we also have a lot of players and a large base in our community that was with us through that last bear market. And they saw the same things that's happening now, just like people in Bitcoin, saw this all before, right? So we have a strong community that knows, hey, last time this happened, it was a great opportunity to get Splinterlands assets. So this may be the same thing. So yeah, the SPS token and our card prices are went down with the general market, but we're going to continue to be here. We're going to keep building through this entire bear market and beyond. And so everyone can look at the past and look at our roadmap for the future and decide, what they think about the price.
Are you guys trying to do anything to boost the token price, or it's just, leave it to the market itself?
Yeah, we don't specifically try to, manipulate the market and do anything with prices. We just want to build a great product. If we build a great product, then, value will come into the ecosystem. So that doesn't change in bull or bear markets at all. We just focus on building the best product that we can, and that will get more players and more users and more value into everything.
So I want to deep dive into more about the crypto winter you guys been through during 2018 and 19. So you guys launched a product in 2018, and sooner or later the winter is coming. So I think a lot of audience on the platform right now is tuning right now is actually Web3 builders. So a lot of saying, okay, so during the winter we'll come back to build, but while we're building, actually, when you launch your products, probably not so many people out there in the market to even test it around. So how did you guys been through the crypto winter in 2018, and what was the experience of surviving?
Yeah, well, for any founders, especially with new products, I think crypto kind of spoils people a little bit, especially in bull markets, because there's so many projects that come out and they're nothing, like a white paper, and then they raise millions of dollars, and it's like immediate gratification, But most times with startups and a lot of the success stories, really, it's very difficult for a while, and founders have to oftentimes not have a salary for a little while, or very low salary, and you put a lot of work and time and effort into projects, and you don't know if it's ever going to work out, and unfortunately, that's just the reality of doing this. The payoff can be very, very big, but the risk can also be big too. So I would say, if you're just looking during a bull market and you say, oh, why, it looks like everyone could do things and raise millions of dollars so easily, and now we can't. That, the crypto bull markets are the anomaly, I think. And realistically, it takes a lot of risk and a lot of hard work for potentially a number of years. And a lot of people, you don't realize, like, they've actually failed a number of times before, but they keep trying again. You don't hear about the failures, you only hear about the success. So it just sounds like, oh, the first thing they did was a huge success. But no, it wasn't. I had never founded a startup, but I had worked at a couple startups before Splinterlands, and they failed. And it was a shame, and people put a lot of years and money and energy into it. But that's how you learn, and that's how you improve. And I think the most important thing is just to not give up, right? Like, failing is great in the amount that you learn, and it'll just make you have that much more chance of success the next time around.
So what exactly did you guys do during the winter time? So you actually didn't know when's a bull market gonna come. So what exactly do you launch a product, and do you get feedback from the community? Do you twist the games? And what exactly can you do during the time?
Well, I think launching a product is one of the most important things. I think we see teams that spend years building and building, but you don't know if what you're building is going to resonate with the market. So that time could all be wasted. Whereas if you, like, getting an MVP, a minimum viable product, out fast is, in my opinion, the most important thing. I mean, even if it doesn't work great, even if it's, not good, like, you can at least test your idea and just get feedback, like, right away. So you're not wasting all this time building something, and then you finally put it out to market and find out then that, no one really likes it. And I think people, especially first-time founders, tend to overestimate how much their audience is going to like their product, because they've spent so much time in it and they think, oh, it's the most amazing thing ever. But realistically, a lot of times that's not the case. So for us at Splinterlands, even now and even through the bull market, our focus is on, we need to get new products and new features out as quickly as possible, get feedback from real users, and then iterate on it and build on it. And I think that's been a key to success, especially through the bear market, because we just put things out. And even in a bear market, like if you put something out that's, that anybody likes, yeah, there's still some people will use it, and you'll be able to make some money. So we were able to continually put things out on a regular basis throughout 2018 and 2019. And we earned enough to at least keep us going.
I think that's what so in AppWorks Accelerator, we deal with a lot of first-time founder, and that's one of the biggest mistakes we saw people were making, is that they're trying to make the product perfect before launch, and they think the definition of perfect is basically beyond it's in their imagination. So after the product launch, they're getting feedback, and turns out the product is not as good as imagined. So they're spending tons of time to redesign it again. So I think the most important thing here is to no matter what, to launch the MVP first, and you probably just need like 60 points of that, and you can launch your products already.
Yeah. We have like town halls every week with our community and our players, and they always ask us like, what are we going to do about this, or how is this going to work, or all these things. And a lot of times my answer is, I really don't know. It's we're going to try these things, and we're going to see how they go. Because one of the things I realize is like, nobody knows, right? No one can predict how all this stuff is going to work out, or what people are going to do, or how they're going to, like it. So we just try to take a good guess, and then get it out to market as quickly as possible, and then learn from real data, real user feedback.
Can you give us an example, like how fast can you launch a function or a product or sort of feature within Splinterlands?
Yeah, I mean, I guess it depends, but I mean, typically it'd be about a month, right? So I'd say like, if they're like small things, it could be quicker. But even for like a larger thing, we just kind of made a big change to how the rewards work in the game. So that was about a month of development work to put it out. And again, it was because we work really hard to make sure it's the bare minimum that we need. So we have lots of people in the company that, and our players who are like, oh, this is a great idea, you should do this, and why it should work like that. And one of the things that I do as the head of the product is I say no to most of the things. They're all very good ideas potentially, right? But I say, no, we need the minimum. What is the minimum we can do to get this thing out and test that? And then we'll see what are the good ideas and what aren't from then. You can keep iterate. Like it's never, you put something out and it's done, right? You put out a first version, you see how it goes, and then over the next month, you make changes to it.
So how exactly do you decide what is the minimum there?
Well, typically every change is focusing on one specific thing, right? And so you just try to think of like, what do we need to kind of test that hypothesis, right? Everything's a hypothesis. We hear from players that this thing is difficult or that they don't like it. So what is, you just have to think about what's the least we can change to change that one piece. And test it. And you also want to be careful about making too many changes at the same time. There might be 5 different things you want to change, but if you change them all at the same time, it's hard to tell which one, if things got better, which one made it better. Or if nothing changed, maybe one thing made it better and one thing made it worse. But since you put them all out at the same time, it's hard to tell, right? So you just pick one, start with one, get very quickly, do the minimum to test that change, see if it helped or hurt, and then try the next thing and go from there.
That's a great advice. And compared to the current market situation versus 2018, you guys? Do you see there's a difference, the market dynamic, the users' behavior? So from your experience, do you see any difference now and then?
Yeah, I mean, everything's just it's similar, but everything's grown so much more. I mean, you just can take Bitcoin price as a proxy. Like if back in 2018, you thought about, oh, Bitcoin's going to be at 20,000 in 2022. Well, that would sound like amazing, right? And similarly in 2014, if you looked at the price in 2018, it would have sounded amazing. So, the difference is that everything's just bigger and more. So even though it's down from the highs, if you kind of just ignore the highs and look at where it was like 4 or 5 years ago, it's so much bigger. But that also makes it less risky, right? Because the bigger everything is, the more people that are involved, the more money that's involved, the less risk that there is that it's all going to go away, right? So, obviously everyone's like, oh, I wish I invested in Bitcoin back in 2012 or whatever year. But actually from a risk perspective, it was much, much riskier back then than it is now. Even though the price is higher now, like there's countries that have adopted this, like it's not going away. So the actual risk of losing your whole investment is much lower. And the same thing's true in general for NFTs and Web3. Like it's down a lot from the highs, but the risk of it going away is much, much less than in, say, 2018.
Right, and I think the big difference here is comparing to 2018. There's actually more users in the ecosystem right now. So I think during in the past 1 or 2 years, there's actually unramped a lot of users, real users, not bot users, but real users to the ecosystem. I think the other sort of disadvantage about a Web3 is once you get in, it's hard for you to get out. So that means no matter bull market or bear market, you still stay in the ecosystem. And at this moment, people are looking for a really sort of functional application to apply with their coins or cryptos. So I think if you're an entrepreneur yourself, or even your developers, especially on entertainment, I think that's a great time, because that means the pool here is a lot larger than 2018 itself. I think that also reflects on the NFT NYC right now, right? So I was just talking to Matt that when he joined the NYC in 2019 and 2020, there was like 500 people or so doing the event, and now he says it's like 5,000 or 50,000.
15,000.
Right? Oh, 15,000, right?
Crazy.
So I think the user base is a lot huger than before. So I think less people can be more optimistic about the market itself. So beyond that, I want to touch about on your founder journey. So as a founder for so many years, I believe there were so many mistakes you've made. So can you tell us about 1 or 2 that's something you learned from it?
Yeah, I guess the main one, I mean, so first of all founders are going to make a lot of mistakes. I mean, that's part of this. This is a totally new industry. We have nothing to look at as an example. So like, yeah, you got to go out there and you got to make your mistakes, and you got to, I think this is fail fast is kind of advice. Like you just want to get things out and see how it works quickly. So don't, making mistakes is not a problem. One thing I would give advice to that I learned is that you also have to be really good at, you have to try to get good people with you. You can't try to do everything yourself. I think founders, or at least me, early on, when things were small, I tried to do everything myself. It was very hard to delegate responsibility to other people. And that works fine when you're really small and just starting. But then things can grow really, really fast if you're successful. And then if you don't have a good team with you to handle it, things can fall apart really quickly. And we experienced that last year when Splinterlands grew 20x within a few months. And, there were so many things that I was handling myself that I couldn't handle 20 times the volume of it, obviously. And we had to scramble to get people in as quickly as possible. And it was very difficult, and I wish I had delegated more of these responsibilities earlier on, so we'd be prepared for that growth.
That's a great advice. I wonder, do you feel FOMO yourself, especially you're in Web3 industry? A lot of people these days are still feeling FOMO, and how do you deal with that? There's so many things to learn, basically.
Yeah, I mean, so that's hard. I remember, like in 2018, you could know about every blockchain project and every game. Like if there was a new one, it was like a really big deal. It was a new blockchain game. It's like one of five, and so I would be involved in all of them. And now I'm here at NFT NYC, and there's like thousands of projects I've never heard of, and I want to know about all of them, but you just can't. So yeah, I mean, being a founder, you really have to focus. And I think I typically wait, and I wait until things become big. When you start hearing about, a few things all over the place, and it's like, oh, wow, these have made some waves in the community and in the industry. So these are probably things that are worth my time to look into. And yeah, I do miss a lot of like early stage things. But, I can't spend my entire life just looking at all the different projects. So yeah, that's my advice for FOMO is, don't try to be super early into whatever new project, because it's hard to pick from the thousands which ones are going to be successful. So I wait to see which ones seem to already be successful, and then I take a look at them, and then I maybe get involved, because it's still, even at that point, everything in this space is still really early. So it's okay. Like, instead of trying to get into Bitcoin in 2012, it's like, wait a little while, see if it gets bigger, and get in around the 2017 timeframe. So it's, still really great potential for return, but also much less risky.
I'm curious about like what are some of projects you're picking up to look into deeper these days?
You mean what specific projects?
Yeah.
I mean, so there's like blockchain layer one blockchain projects. So obviously, the big ones like Solana, Luna was a great thing to look into, because also ones that fail often have some of the best learnings from them, right? So you look into how it worked, why it failed, what happened, and those are great lessons you can take. So definitely, I actually think looking at things that have failed might be one of the best ways to learn. And generally, I guess, you can look at crypto ranking sites. Look at the top ones. Like, those are the ones that get the most money and the most attention. Look at DApp Radar and things like that. And then also going to events. So it's like going to events like NFT NYC, and there's others. They're all over the world. It's like all the time there's events. See what everybody's talking about. Look at Bored Apes. Like, why is that so valuable? And the 75 other projects that are like the same thing, aren't doing as well. So, I think it's pretty obvious, like, which projects got value and got people involved and talking about them. And those are the ones I focus on and learn about. Got
you. So, do you see any good Web3 startups that you think people could deep dive these days?
I mean, I think there's a lot of good Web3 projects. I'm not going to mention them because I don't want to leave them out. But I typically look at a few things. So to me, unfortunately, a lot of the Web3 projects are not focused on decentralization, and they're kind of just using the term for hype. Or a lot of them are just, basically yield farming applications, maybe with a game in front of it or whatever. So to me, what I look at is what product or service do they provide? So like, take Uniswap, for example. I use Uniswap all the time, right? I need to swap tokens, and Splinterlands as a business needs to swap tokens. And, they have the most liquidity on the Ethereum blockchain. So that's a product or service that I use. and if I pay for it, right? I'm not trying to get a return on that. I'm just paying a fee to use that service. So that's a real thing. It's providing a real product or service. It's not just a yield farming application. So that can generate real value for token holders, as an example. I'm not necessarily saying it's a good investment, but that's something I would look into because I actively use it. And similarly with Splinterlands and games, like I'm a huge gamer. I've spent thousands and thousands of dollars in Web2 games over my life, right? So it's something I like and enjoy. So when we built Splinterlands, that's what we were building. We were building a fun game that people will enjoy, and that's the product, right? So that's where money comes in, because people like to collect these collectibles. They like to play the game. They like to be the best. They like to try to get to the top and all these things. And then that's the service that we provide that provides then the value to everybody, the value to all the assets. So whenever there's a Web3 product that I'm like, oh wow, this is something I actually like, or I would actually use. And it's not just what's my ROI, every month, right? Then it's something to me, I'm like, that's interesting, and let me look into that and how it works.
I think that's something people really need to learn about it. I think when the market is good, a lot of people are just thinking about purchasing tokens or purchasing a product just because they think the price will go up. But I think that's hardly to happen during a bear market, and I think that's something people should back to focus to fundamental itself. I think my last question to wrapping up this chat is about being a Web3 user, being a founder, and being a gamer yourself. What do you think, if I'm an entrepreneur these days, what are some of the angle you think there still need a lot of improvement, and people should, perhaps some people out there should focus on time to make it better, no matter from user experience, no matter from the product itself?
I mean, I think entrepreneurs should start just looking for problems. There are still so many problems in the Web3 space. There's still so many things that are difficult and could be improved. That means opportunity. So, when we built Splinterlands, it was, for me, I thought, oh wow, if this game existed, I would play it a lot and put a lot of money into it, right? So there was something that kind of didn't exist the way I wanted it to. So we built it. So that it's the same thing. If you're an entrepreneur, go and use everything you can. Go and try out as many platforms and many products as you can, and see what things are difficult for you. See what things you'd be like, oh, this would be much better if it worked this way, or if there was a product that did this. And that's where I think the best ideas can come from.
Thanks for great advice, and thanks, Matt, again for joining us today. I think the sharing and also the advice you give are very informative and help the audience get some insight out of it. Last but not least, if you're interested in joining AppWorks Accelerator, we are currently recruit for batch 25 stars. So you can get on to appworks.tw to get more information. Thanks again for Matt for joining us. Appreciate it. And thanks for the audience for tuning in. Enjoy your trip in NFT NYC in New York.
Yeah, thank you, Jessica, and thank you to AppWorks for all of your support.
Thank you very much. See you next time.
Bye.